Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to have you guys here. Man, I got some stuff to show you. I've been wanting to show you for a few days, and I think it's about time to do it. It's nothing earth-shattering, as I've mentioned, but I teased a little bit in the Discord, which, by the way, if you want to be a member of the best Discord on the internet, look down in the description of this video and you will find the link to my Discord channel. The best ever. You'll get a bunch of notifications for any time I go live if you are a Discord user, and you can chat with us about all sorts of different things, and there will even be some from time to time some appearances from other streamer friends in those rooms as well. So please do feel free to use, and we can do all sorts of communicating back and forth. I do some highlight, some photos, some videos, stuff like that, screenshot type things that I throw in there on occasion as well. So please do check that out, and feel free to become a part of the community. Now, like I said, I've been teasing this for a little while through Discord, that I came up with a different way of creating runway surfaces. I didn't really say specifically what I was teasing, but that is what it is, and I was kind of excited about it because I was doing it. I'm like, wow, this looks really, really good, and I have so much control over the end result. So I did kind of a hybrid of a couple of things, and I'm going to show you. So actually, what you're seeing, these three runways, we got this runway right here. This is 5 right, 2, 3 left. We got 5 left, 2, 3 right over here, and 1, 4, 3, 2 here. I actually did all three using a completely different method, pretty much. So we will talk about those, and then we'll kind of figure out kind of which one I like the best. And I think the one I'm doing right now is kind of what I'm liking the best, but we'll talk about how to get kind of a similar result, if not better result. And I'm learning, like I said, I'm learning kind of alongside a lot of you guys here. So I don't have more refined ways of doing this yet, but we'll jump right into it. So I want to show that there's, like I said, there's 3 different ways that I've done it. This runway right here uses pretty much everything that the sim has in terms of lines and stuff like that on it. This is 100% done by the default runway object using its own markings, using the default markings. And actually, even right now, I've got the default center lines turned on, center line lights and center lines. And this is a runway that its material is all part of the runway object, and because of that, it's a little harder to see through, especially when we get down. But actually, it does a pretty good job, to be honest. But as we move down here, it's the same thing. It's still the runway and its own materials, but it's sitting on top of an apron. So that's how we did that one. Now, when I came out and did this one over here, I drew an apron, and actually the runway material itself is completely transparent. There is no material being shown right now. So, and all those lines are, again, the default markings that come with the runway object. So that's all done in. That's why the only real place you see any real discrepancy in markings is like here, where you can see these bars kind of are narrower. They don't space out as far. There's not as much space in between each of these bars in the sim as there are in real life. So they've spaced them out a little bit more. But all the rest of the markings and everything are just so happen to pretty much almost exactly match the underlying photos. So you can't really tell. It'll start to get off a little bit again spacing with these bars, but otherwise everything looks really nice. But you might notice that there's a lack of runway, of tire marks. So anyway, we go over to this runway now, which I was working on yesterday, and you're going to see 2 things. I was not working on this yesterday, it was a few days ago. That this side looks noticeably different than this side. Notice this side has a bunch of marks on it, like a bunch of, has a edge lines, has center lines, and then the other side does not. And I'll show you why here, because I've actually done this runway in 2 halves, and that is not really the trick. And you'll notice also this right here, you don't see this runway's markings overlapping on 5 right, which if you use the default runway properties, you would see. It would be just this runway's 1432's markings would be overlapping with 5 right's markings, and it would just be a big jumbled mess. Well, if you look at the Google map, kills me that I'm using Google for this, but anyway, yeah, so where is it? Where is it? There we go. If you look at the actual aerial imagery here, you'll see that there is no overlap of any of the lining assets, and it's all just the 5 right ones. So that's kind of what we're getting. We're getting that kind of more realistic cross section. Oh, that's interesting how these bars are placed so much differently in this photo than they are in here. They're way forward. Interesting indeed. Why is that? Okay, so what that makes me want to do is go in to, let's take a look at that. Let's investigate this. Runway 5 right, let's make it clear. Okay, so you can see these lines actually are back there in real life. So that is something that this new method that I'm using could address, and we'll look at that here in a second. So notice where these 3,000 foot bars, those are 500 foot bars, I should say, are located, and when you turn the runway back on, they go way up. So that's interesting that they do that. Not sure why they do it exactly, but they do it. Okay, anyway. Glad I noticed that. So you just get the... So that's one of the things I'm excited about, is I was able to figure out how to make this work without it just being crossing lines and a big giant mess. So notice that not all of these lines are painted yet. It's because I've been hand painting all of these. So what I did was I did 2, because these runways intersect, and I knew that I wanted this section to not kind of interfere, and you can see because I kind of half did it over here. So I did this runway in 2 sections, as I said. There's 2 different aprons. One is on this half before the runway, and one is after the runway. Or, well, that was weird. Or if you prefer, I could say I did this one first and then that one. Doesn't really matter. But, so with these 2 aprons, I named them differently. 1-4 and 3-2, so the 1-4 side has its own apron. You can see it all marked in red. And then the 3-2 side has its own apron, which is much less detailed because I haven't done the round part yet. I haven't really worked nearly as much on this side. So I did that. And then I laid the runway on top of those. So, which is the same thing I've done on the other 2, but this time when I did the runway object, in materials, I went over here and said, okay, I'll click transparent. So what happens when you make the runway transparent is there is absolutely no material shown. So it is basically see-through for the material. So all you'll see is the apron underneath it. So it's just one less layer of material, one less layer of asphalt texture that's going in there. So theoretically it should process a little faster in the sim, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. So you turn the apron underneath it off, and then you just get photo scenery below. So, because that's the only layer of anything there is in there. Now, when you go to the materials, you see a default runway. A runway by default, when you click on it, is going to show you in the materials page, like let's select this one for instance, the material page, most people are just going to set this as runway asphalt. I think that's the default one, in fact. So they're going to put their runway material there. And then it's going to show you the whole material there. And then if you don't want to show it, you can just click transparent and it just disappears, right? Well, you don't want that because this looks strange, especially when you got scenery texture, and then the apron texture is below it. Oh, that does look nice. How did I get that? Oh, it's because it's... Oh, okay, I get it. It's going to have a different transparency because of the fact that it's sitting over there. Okay. Okay. Anyway, there we go. So, oh, turn the transparency part off, and it has not rendered in at all. There it goes. That was strange how that took a second. Okay, so this one doesn't have any material on it, which is kind of the secret, I guess. Fewer of those. So as I select it again, you can see that this is a nice runway texture underneath because I did the merge. Turn it back on, do the ground merging. It doesn't really matter again. The merging part isn't going to make any difference. So yeah, the nice part about the apron is the apron has ground merging turned on. That's what it was. So see this apron that I've selected here does do ground merging. Now the ground merging is nice because it'll help you see through to the photo scenery a little bit better. And then we get these nice little like lanes of asphalt that were poured that are real width. They're not like guesstimated or anything. I turn that off and you can't see them hardly as well. If you can see them at all through YouTube, I'd be surprised. So I do the ground merging, which shows us those nice sort of darker lines, and you can really see these lanes now. And it makes it look more like a real runway. But here's the problem, is the 1.4 number is completely off. And I'll show you what the significance of this is. There is... So even though I have the runway material set as transparent, it can still show you lines. The markings can still be shown. So what the markings I have selected, and I'll show you why I did it this way, I did a threshold markings, which are these long guys. Now, it's important to put them in there, because if you don't, and you want to use the number and designators at the end, like I can't draw this very well with a painted line object because of the weird angles and stuff. It probably just wouldn't come out right. So because of that, I want to use those. Now, the precision markings are what push, not precision markings, touchdown markings. All right, third time. Let's try this again. The threshold markings are the ones that push the numbers up to the right spot. And then I'll show you how we can go in and kind of clean this up just a little bit so that you can see less of less of that. But so yeah, so they're not completely accurate. I understand that, and there are some issues that need to be addressed here, and I will definitely address those so that it doesn't look quite so odd. But so yeah, so I've select those lines. I have the threshold lines on. I have the fixed distance markings, which are these big 1,000-foot paint pieces, which I can actually probably turn off. I probably don't really need those, but I just wanted to make sure that they were in the right spot. So you turn them off. It doesn't change anything in spacing wise. You still see the paint underneath, which you can cover later, which is how I will do it. And then the number designator at the end. I don't have the edge lights, the edge markings turned on, which you can tell because that is why I don't have any paint on the other side of this runway. There's no edge, there's no center lines, because those are not actually selected. The default ones are not selected, and that's why they don't go through this runway, because if I did turn them on, you'd see edge markings. Try that again. There we go. Edge markings that go through, looking like that. And you'd see center lines markings. Hold on a sec. What's up, Magnus? How you doing?
Yo, what's up, buddy?
We got stream going here.
Am I interrupting your stream?
I am streaming. Are you? Whether or not you're interrupting is up to you, I guess.
No, I'm not interrupting. What are you streaming?
I'm doing more scenery stuff today. Okay. It's gonna be a short one.
Okay, let me check this out.
It's to you probably not all that interesting.
No, of course it is. What are you talking about?
We've got children.
Fucking loading it up over here. Good, man.
So anyway,
it's just getting to the part where we introduced each other, said hi to each other. That's cool. It's on a little bit of a delay.
They're always on a delay. I think YouTube works on like
look great,
7 to 10 seconds.
Look at you.
Always looking good.
Looking fit, boy.
Wouldn't go that far.
How do I sign into chat? All right, let me in here. Oh man, hold on. Let's do that.
All right, so anyway, so you can see the difference in the lines. So if I did use the default lines, they cross the runway in a really awkward way. So this is a good method for not having that problem by turning the edge markings off, turning your center line dash lines off, and you notice they're thinner too, right? They're a lot. These are really thin for some reason on the runway. I don't know why it's doing that, to be honest, but because I've never done that before. But even the edge marks are a little bit thinner than they normally are. So yeah, so by not using those, you don't get the weird crossing lines problem and the weird crossing textures problem potentially either. So transparent runway in terms of the material. You still use some of the lines, but not the material underneath. So I've painted all of these edges, the edge by myself using the painted line object, as you'll see in the hierarchy here. Painted line. Maybe, okay, not that painted line. There's the lines. So we got this.
Are you gonna keep yourself muted on?
Oh, I'm pushed to talk on Discord, so
okay.
So that yeah. Gotcha. You don't have to listen to me just talking to stream the whole time.
Okay.
It's better if we're actually playing, like if I'm doing like a game or like a shooter or something like that, and I'm saying something then that doesn't interrupt anybody else playing and everything. So.
Yep. Gotcha.
So yeah.
Are you interested in switching over?
Yeah, I can do that in a little bit. Let me finish up here, and then we can get it going.
Time. Yeah, take your time.
All right, so yeah, so this is all one line here. I didn't use multiple nodes. I just used the 2 regular nodes, I think, on it, which it makes it nice and straight, and it doesn't. Notice that
I'm running a solo. Let's go.
The actual line itself will appear to hover above because of the wireframe part of it anyway. But the line is, painted lines, just like aprons, will just paint right down on top of the terrain. So there's a little jaggedy, and I think there's some parts that kind of poke through, which I think is really because of just the way that the aerial photography layers on it. Sometimes it's not always completely straight, and yeah, it looks really, really nice. And I've been experimenting with this. I did the center lines on this side, which I like because you'll notice there's no weird ghosting of the photo underneath it as a result. And the 1,000-foot marks, they're okay already, so I don't necessarily need to repaint those. But I think if you look really closely, maybe you can't tell through here, but the painted lines, if I just do a single layer, are not as, because there's some opacity to them, they're not as bright as this. Like this is like maybe 2 or 3 layers of paint that are kind of overlapped, like 3 different paint textures, or it's its own paint texture. Probably its own texture. But so with the edge lines, if you look in the hierarchy, I did a copy as well. So you'll see there's one edge line down here.
Man, look at
and then
how
there's
detailed
a copy right underneath it.
This gets.
Are you talking about my stuff?
Yeah. Whoa.
Oh yeah.
All the way down to the fucking texture on the tarmac.
that's how you make it look like real, though. You know, you got to be, you got to,
Right.
and it's not super hard either. You just got to kind of know what the options do so that you can make it look kind of like it actually like a real tarmac.
Yeah, yeah. So you're able to start this from scratch.
Yes.
Build your own.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So what you do is you load in. Oh, I'm sorry, flying all over the place here. But yeah, you load in the location where the other one was, and then you have to delete everything basically.
All right, I see. Okay.
It's called an exclusion, where you just take everything that's inside of like a polygon that I draw, and then say just get rid of it. And you have to do that because it doesn't have a method to really just say, like, you can't say like, oh, I'm going to go with this runway here and I want to edit this and this and this and this. It doesn't let you do that. You have to make your own to be able to edit it all, which is kind of stupid. But anyway, the point is you make little taxiways that actually match the photo scenery underneath it perfectly.
Oh, wow.
Like the curvatures and everything.
Holy
So,
man.
and that's the problem is the airports by default are all created by an AI system that just sort of looks at the pictures and just starts just plopping down stuff, and it doesn't align right. It's not. It looks kind of fuzzy and like the runways didn't line up with like this runway that I'm looking at right now has this part to the side of it. This little shoulder part, basically. It's like kind of like the shoulder on a highway, right? With these yellow lines. Well, it was like off-centered, where the runway would be like a couple of degrees off of the direction of the shoulder pavement. So it'd be like there'd be a huge shoulder on the left side, but not much on the right side on one side of the runway.
Yeah.
And then it would be cocked off to the side on the other side of the runway.
So you're fixing that. You're able to sort of tidy it up.
Yeah, so that everything is like perfectly spot on. Like all the lights and everything that it creates are in the exact same spot as they are in real life and stuff.
That's cool, man. Yeah. So you're going off of something right now. What airport are you building?
This is, oops, sorry. This is the Greensboro Airport. This is actually the one that I work at.
Oh man, I have family in Greensboro.
Dude, there you go.
That's wild, man. I'll have to show this to somebody who would know. That would be fucking cool, man. Oh, excuse my language. That's
right. So yeah, and then I can kind of change all the colors of everything and stuff. So to make it, what I try to do is kind of get a wide bird's eye view, and it's like if I turned this off, would it still look kind of the same as what the picture underneath it looks, but better, you know? So that's
look at
what I'm
that.
doing.
So you're building. What buildings have you done? Have you done any buildings?
So I haven't done buildings because I am not at all good at 3D modeling. So that's kind of the next
phase here.
Yeah, the evolution of the whole thing is I'm learning how to do the airport right now, like the ground stuff and like the lights and everything and the signs, and then I'm going to learn how to do the buildings, which will be a much more painstaking process, more time consuming, because that stuff doesn't go nearly as fast. I don't know how good I'll ever get at it, to be honest, because there's like different parts of doing these things. There's building a model, like just the blueprints of the building, and then there's texturing the building, which is, oh my gosh.
I can't believe they allow you to do that much, to be quite honest. Like, that's quite a bit of stuff to be able to do in one little game, I guess. You know?
So that and what's interesting is all the little points and stuff that you see that I've got on here. It's all just like latitude, like coordinates in an XML file. So it's just one big XML file that isn't really even all that big. Like if let's see, if I go to the Explorer here, let me see if I can figure out how big it is right now. Oh, it's big. Let's see. Right now it's, that can't be right. Where is the actual? 310 kilobytes.
310 kilobytes. I'm not even sure how much that is, so forgive me.
That's super tiny. That's just a text file. That's 310. I mean, it's not not even a megabyte of information to say where all this is.
What is a full airport typically? If you
That's a good
were to
question. I don't
build
know.
the buildings, I'm wondering.
Well, so the buildings aren't part of an XML file. Those have their own.
Okay.
Those are all the models are their
Gotcha.
own file. The textures are their own file. That's where stuff gets big because textures are the ones that are the part that really take up a lot of space.
Understood.
But because
okay.
these are all default resources that I'm using right here, it's just referencing stuff that it already has stored someplace else. Like the textures for the ground, the taxiways and everything are all textures. Actually, they're all the same. To every single surface here uses the same texture basically. It's
Alrighty.
just I can change the color of it, and I can change kind of how like transparent it is and stuff like that to kind of change to make it look different, but actually be just the same texture. So it really cuts down on the amount of storage and stuff like that, and it makes it perform really well. And so that's
it's
basically
optimized.
Yeah.
It's
So
optimized.
so this is just basically going around placing a bunch of little vectors, like little vertices everywhere, and curving lines and stuff.
Has somebody else built Greensboro Airport?
There is
already?
a company that did it, a group that did it, and they're actually robbing people of their hard-earned money by trying to sell it in the for like a few bucks or something like that. But it looks like absolute garbage.
It looks like dog shit.
Yeah, and so
you can sell these maps potentially.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's different.
So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I mean, they say like if you want to get into doing these scenery like airport design projects, do someplace that you know and someplace that's local for you because you have some sort of special knowledge of.
You obviously.
I get paid. I get paid to stare at this airport 5 days a week.
Exactly.
You know.
Right. So there it is.
So yeah. So I know kind of where everything is, and I guess
this is a good expenditure of your time then.
Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely.
And there's plenty of people on stream that are pretty excited to try it out too. It sounds like so.
I'm sure. Yeah, it sounds like you got some hype here, and there's people in chat. Oh, I don't know how many viewers you got. What's your stats right now?
Oh, it's not big. I don't get a ton of people watching these because these are not for everybody.
It's not like flying.
Yeah. So the point of the streams is I'm just trying to show people how easy it is to do these things and sort of the techniques that I'm using over and over and over again to do it, and it's really not that difficult. So that maybe more people can try to do it with their local airports, and then you just get the result is everybody gets better airports.
Yeah, that's it. Right. Overall result is net gain.
Yeah. So the big feature of Microsoft Flight Sim, the newest one, is that it just basically you're streaming all the photo textures from the Bing Maps servers basically the entire time everywhere you fly. It's all like kind of like Google Maps, Google Earth type of stuff. All the ground textures are photos, from airplanes or whatever. And so everything looks very, very real now, and it has better like weather and clouds and everything. So you put all that together, and it looks like a much more real world. But then you get down to the airport level, where it's actually just where it tries to draw all these textures on top of everything to make it look cleaner. Because once you get down low to the ground, these photos start to look really junky. They're less appealing when you're right. Because of the resolution of them, it's not super great, so that if you're on the ground, it's like super sharp. It would just take up ridiculous amounts of space and everything, and it would be harder to stream. So you get these textures and like taxiways and everything that I'm working with, that do look good from the ground, but they're less photoreal. So that's the problem with the airports, is when they make the airports, they just don't look all that great. So here I am adding detail to the world so that it's a more immersive experience when you get it to the airport level.
Copy that.
And now all of these taxiways on an airport have names, and they're all letters essentially. And so, and the runways have their markings and stuff like that. They're numbers too. So the problem with the sim is it uses really old data a lot of the times, and that it doesn't even have the right stinking names on all of these. So a lot of these pilots who are maybe we like to follow a lot of real-world procedures and stuff like that inside of the sim, kind of like as if we were really flying airplanes. So we have charts for all of these, like the U.S. government provides charts for all of the airports that say this road, this taxiway is called this taxiway is called that. But if the scenery in your sim doesn't match any of that, then it's really hard for you to know, okay, this controller told me to take this taxiway, then this taxiway, then this taxiway to get to a runway, and what I'm seeing in the sim doesn't match what is on this chart that I have.
Gotcha.
So it's like a map that doesn't have the same street names, right? It's completely bonkers, and then you can't make it, your map is useless if it doesn't have the same street names that you're seeing when you're actually driving down these roads. So
gotcha.
So yeah, there's a bunch of different things that we kind of fix here. That
I like it, man, and you're fascinating me with all this behind the scenes stuff that I did not know about.
What's up, Chandler? Good to see you, man. Good to talk to you yesterday.
Airport stuff.
See, one of this guy Chandler here that's in the chat, it was actually a pilot that flies in and out of this airport all the time. So
okay,
and
cool. Hello from Croatia. Cool. What's up?
Yeah, it's an international community for flight sim. Everybody, all over the world, people come from to do this stuff.
That's cool, man. I like that.
So yeah, so I'm just talking about a different technique for laying down runway that's a little bit more time consuming, a little less of the default settings that the sim has, so it makes a better product in the end, but it's also takes a little bit longer.
Gotcha.
So
do it for the people.
Oh yeah, it's a labor of love, but it's a hobbyist type of thing, you know. It's like people that build like model railroads and stuff like that who just take all this time. It's like, well, whoever really sees any of this? Well, I see it a lot, you know. So yeah, I want to make an airport that I like to fly in and out of this airport a lot in the simulator, and I want it to look, you know, I don't want it to be distracting where you fly into the place and you be like, oh, that doesn't look anything like the place that I work at every day. Yep, Chandler, I worked this morning from 6 to 2, and I will be back at work tonight, 10:30 to 6:30. The old mid shift, and then I have the weekend off. I'm actually going to be off. I do have an overtime shift on Saturday. So Saturday night I'll be working from 4 p.m. to midnight, which is our late shift on a Saturday. And then I will be off until Wednesday. So that sounds good. It's going to be awesome. Got my mother-in-law coming into town on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Airboat time, Snare. This could backfire.
You doing solos in the PUBG right now?
Yup, solos. Yup. I'm swimming in from outside a circle, as always. It seems on this map.
All right, I'm gonna close up the stream here real quick, and then I'll we'll get some PUBG going.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready. Don't let me rush you off.
All right. So there we go. That's get back to you guys here. Sticky Rice said hello. Good to see you, buddy. I was just sort of explaining to my friend Marcus here, who I'm going to play a little bit of PUBG with here in a little bit. I'll stream it. We can watch that as well. Just kind of explaining to him kind of what I'm actually doing here. So if you're checking this out for the first time and you've never seen anybody do these things before, was a little bit of a brief overview of what we do in the scenery editor. So anyway, yeah. This runway is pretty much, I'm trying to get to the point where I'm doing things by hand as much as possible, custom, and using fewer of the default options. And I think the results are really looking nice. You get runway edge lines that are actually in the right spot. You get center lines that are perfectly in the right spot, which I think you can see the difference between this side here and the other ones where you got these default lines that you're not going to see it on this runway because it covers up everything. But you go to like this runway, and the further down the runway you get, you can see the center lines, the default center lines, which are painted on here, don't line up with the actual ones in the photos, and you just get these sort of extra ghosty image type of things, which is really what I'm trying to avoid and eliminate as much as possible. But you still get it here with like the runway numbers and the threshold markings here. So I have an idea of how I can fix that. I won't completely eliminate it, but it might make it a little bit better. I don't know. We'll see. Problem is I just can't paint these shapes. I don't know how to paint those shapes, and I can try and maybe get someplace, but yeah. So the 1,000 footers are, I think I might keep those just because it's already there, and it's just a click on, click off, as opposed to having to layer all these things. But like these 500 foot markers, I think what I did is, yeah, kind of see a seam here, but I took 2 lines and put them side by side. So, because I don't have a line that's as thick as that I can use in the objects. So it's just 2 lines side by side next to each other, and I'll probably do the same for these things. It'll be 2 lines, then 2 lines, 2 lines, then 2 lines. Now the problem is, and this is my biggest sort of gripe with this whole sim right now, is the fact that you don't have... It'll work on this runway because this runway's markings are just white. It's just white. There's no border. There's no black border for all these lines. But start getting to... Maybe there's a little bit. You get to these other runways, and there is a black border. So that's something that needs to be worked on, is I got to figure out how to do that. And I guess there isn't a black border on runways for these. Let's see if I can 5 left. I can hide that real quick. Yeah, I don't see a black border for runway painting. Okay, that's encouraging. Maybe that's not as big of an issue as I thought. But it's just the taxiway ones. The taxiway ones where there's always the black kind of edge around the yellow line. That's something I haven't figured out how to duplicate yet. Yeah, I'm going to be tired. Yeah, the mid-shifts are tiring. You come off absolutely exhausted because I only get a couple hours of sleep throughout the evening. So I had to take a nap. I took a nap as soon as I got home from work today. So I have at least a little bit of extra energy. And then I think we kind of work for like 3-hour periods where one person is in the tower working radar and a tower side, and the other person is resting. And then we'll switch, and then I would be on the second half, and then the other person will be resting. So that's how those midnight shifts work for us, at least. Some bigger facilities, like Memphis, for instance. Memphis Tower and Memphis Tracon Approach Control are 2 different facilities now, I think. Pretty sure they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But anyway, because of how busy they get with like FedEx and everything like that, they have to have more than just one person working it all at the same time. So it's all based on the traffic level and stuff that you get throughout the night. But most facilities, I think, are usually just one person just working it all. Even centers, like centers are broken up into areas. So it's a group of sectors, and so there will usually just be, for every area, there will usually just be one person working the entire area, which is like 6 sectors, maybe more. So it's it's hundreds of miles of airspace that they're working at once. But yeah, it's just one person. And then there's like 4 areas, 5 areas maybe at the center, and then there's just 4 or 5 people working at a time. Somebody else resting, then they come in and swap, and same concept. That's how midnight shifts work at 24-hour facilities, which ours is. Yeah, so the next step... Now, the cool thing about how I did this was I could... Because of the way that the pavement works in real life at this airport, it's pretty much this... It was all done kind of at the same time. This round part was done at the same time as a runway, which is done at the same time as this part, and this part, this part, this part, and the end down there. So they're all the same. They're all just one... It's all just one apron. There it is. It's all these red outlines and everything are all just one piece of material that I got to make. So there's just one tarmac and one apron, and I got all of these things done. So now I just do one for all of this run. This is like a cement, isn't it? It looks like that's asphalt also. Just really old asphalt that's cracked and falling apart. So yeah, so that'll all be one piece for all the stuff that's about the same color. And that'll lead into the Honda Jet ramp, or the Honda ramp / Corey ramp / Samaritan's Purse ramp / whatever. And then maybe a different, yeah, probably a different, maybe the same one, yeah. Go all the way here to the runway, then this will all be one piece here. Actually, taxiway will be one piece, I think, and then we'll do the ramp as another piece, because slightly different colors used. Yeah. Then we got some actual cement taxiway, which will all be different color. And so you can do these sort of larger chunks of, oh gosh, I said it again. Larger chunks of these things, and that's how we get these different colored taxiways. So, good times. Now, what I don't know is how am I going to do a part like this, which is all broken up and everything, and I might not have a really good answer to how. I might just leave most of the. I might just end the apron like right here on the blue line, so that all of this just shows it on photos. You're not parking any airplanes on this, so it just probably looks better as just the photo. Now that I think about it, all of this is such junk out here. I really need to do something with this. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I'm closing in to being done with all the taxiways, which means I'll have to I'll paint up the FedEx ramp out here and the Honda ramps, the Heiko ramp. This is gonna be where I have to. There's a pretty major step that I need to take before I can figure out how to do all this, because the Heiko scenery doesn't include that. It's the photos are old, and so they don't include the big new hangar that they built out there. Was that a hangar 2, I think it is, and the ramp and everything isn't right, and you can tell because taxiway Mike doesn't go all the way to the end of runway 23 left, which is stupid. So because this Honda ramp was just being built, so what I'm going to have to do is figure out how to get a different set of photos, like the Google Earth imagery, into this sim, so I can and align it correctly and everything, so that I can use that as my reference for drawing taxiways, and then take it out, and then it'll just kind of lay on top of the Bing map stuff here. That's going to be a process. So this is kind of the state of everything. I'm not really here today to do a whole lot of new stuff. I'll come back tomorrow and we'll do some more work on that. I just wanted to kind of show you guys what I was working with and where the runway. Oh, the one thing that I want to show is I did make these runways transparent. I was kind of leading up to this before then Macus came in, so we were talking with him a little bit. But the runway, so like I said, the runway material, go to materials here, I have it set transparent, so there is no material currently, but what you can do, instead of putting an actual like concrete material down, is I can put this one that's called tire gum. This is done by default with runways. You're going to see the tire gum material is just the tire marks. Like right here, this is actually another material layered on top of the asphalt layer. And it's repeated. You can see this line right here repeats there, then there, then there. And it just streaks down the runway until about there. And then it stops. So it's, what is that? 1,500 feet down the runway, maybe a little bit more. And then it stops. So that's kind of the touchdown zone, really, is what it covers. So I can put this tire gum material, which is in the material editor. You go to runway, and it's right down here, second from the bottom. So this is I can put tire gum as a base material here and make it not transparent anymore. And so it won't add an asphalt texture, but it will add the tire gum texture. Boom, there it is, on top of what is of the apron that's on underneath it. So it's not actually touching, it's not linked at all to the apron underneath, but now that I have just an apron there, I've added tire marks to it, so that, and it already does it, so that it only goes about 1,500 feet down the runway. And so now there's tire marks, although there aren't any other materials here. So I could add it even lets you add materials, so I could put cracks and stuff like that on there if I wanted to. And you start adding and layering it, then pretty soon you got something kind of resembling like a PBR texture type of thing, where you're layering different assets on top of each other to make a really nice end product. So that's what we got. So I like that. So I have that turned on for now. So I'm actually not using a transparent runway, but I don't have a hold that now. I'm gonna turn them on. So I don't actually have like a ground material, but I have tire gum layered on top of no material, which makes it transparent, and then you can see it underneath. I have you muted. So yeah, so that's kind of the strategy that I'm working with right now. I think it's pretty cool. You'll see me on stream working more with this in the future. I'll finish up all of these little objects. Whoa, guys. So much noise right now. So yeah, I'll finish up all these lines and everything, and we'll go and do the other side, do the rounds and everything. Then we'll start working with lighting and everything on that runway as well. So that's where we're at. So anyway, thanks for popping in, everybody. I'm done showing you this little state of the thing right now. I would have gone longer, but I think we're gonna do a little gaming. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll come back. We'll do this a little bit more tomorrow, and have a good day, everybody.